Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Today, I'm coming to you from Prickep Farm here in Midlands, a farm that is owned by the First family, where we are going to be looking at sheep production. You would find that on the market, mutton, the meat from sheep, fetches a higher price, even ranging from $12 to $50 per kilogram, meaning that this is a very lucrative business. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by Vicky, a livestock expert working with the First family here at Prickep Farm. Stay tuned. Vicky, thank you so much for taking your time and making time for us to look at sheep production at Prickep Farm as a case study to try and motivate our Zimbabwean farmers here in terms of looking at other ventures when it comes to the livestock industry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. As we get into our discussion, Vicky, I just want a brief background of this enterprise. Maybe you can also mention the breeds that are within this sheep head.
So as you can see for yourself, this is the sheep section. In terms of numbers, currently we're around 500. But what we are aiming by mid-year is to have 1,000.
Okay.
Yes. So we have to make sure our breeding, this is currently the breeding season, so we want as much breeding as we can so that we have our numbers very high.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vicky. You spoke of your head, but I would also want you to dive a bit deeper looking at the breeds. Do you have one breed within the 500 head, or you have various breeds or crossbreeding that is within this head?
All right. So now our purpose is what's important, which leads us to which breed type we need. For us now, we're getting into the meat production. As you can see, the structures we have here. So mostly we have Dopa. Yeah, that's the breed we have here that we're going to be using for meat, which you can also mix here and there, but that's our main breed.
Okay, looking at this housing, it is a beautiful housing, a beautiful structure that you can tell it's well ventilated. Even when it rains, there is no room for raindrops to get into this area. Can you talk to us in terms of the importance of having a proper housing structure for sheep production?
So this structure here for the sheep, it houses about 1,000 to 2,000 sheep, which is where we are getting into. And as you can see, we have compartments. We have compartmentalized. Why we put in compartments is because we really want to have controlled in terms of breeding, in terms of feed quantity that we also give to our sheep. So any that is sick, we have a culling side. We have a side where we put where we quarantine them, treat them, so that they do not pass on diseases to the other sheep. And then even when we are giving feed, the ones that would have given birth with little lambs, we also have compartments for them. And the ones that are heavily pregnant, just before they also give birth, we make sure we give them a special treatment in their own compartment so that they do not mix with the bigger head. So such structures, it's very, very critical, because even if you allow the rains to come in, within a period of time you can start having mortalities. Even also just the direct heat, if it becomes too much, it also does affect our production. So that's why we have everything. It's housed quite well, and even in terms of fresh air coming in, there is a lot of fresh air that's also coming in.
Looking at the birth rate, Vicky, what are we looking at in terms of years or months or age, in terms of maybe production rate, productivity, and also the number of times it gives birth a year?
All right. So what we did in terms of our males, we invested in the very, very good breeds with good characteristics that we need. So definitely the offsprings that we are also going to get, they also have got the good characteristics that we need. So most of them actually, when giving them, they give us twins. Yes, which is something that we invested in, and they actually give us twins. And then in terms of times, we can look twice a year. Yes, so even our mating ratio, we make sure we mix them quite well, 1:25, or at times we actually, since it's controlled breeding, we can even do 1 is to 50, one male to 150 yes,
females.
Exactly.
Okay, Vicky, I can tell just looking from your sheep, they all have tags.
Yes.
Can you talk to us in terms of the importance of tags and the tagging process? How do you do it? What is the essence or the role that this tags plays?
All right, so it's very critical to do tagging when you're dealing with your livestock, because it's for identity. That's how you identify that this pig belongs to who. And also, when we also would like to see the ram, the offsprings that also comes out of a certain ram. We would like to see the characteristics so that we see if the genes that we need are there. So when we have a ram with a certain tag in our books, we put that and the offspring, even in terms of controlling our breeding, so that we avoid inbreeding. We also do tagging.
Okay. Now, Vicky, speaking of inbreeding, can you talk to us in terms of miscarriages, stillbirths? What could be the causes, and what are ways in which you are controlling such circumstances? That is, if you are experiencing any stillbirths or any miscarriages within your head.
Okay. That can be there once in a while, but not so many times. Mostly we make sure there are a lot of factors that affect or that can lead to stillbirth. So we also have to make sure in terms of the feed, the water, because if the female doesn't have a lot of energy and it's about to give birth, so you can imagine the circumstances that can come out. It can actually abort, or if there is a certain disease within that particular female, the ewe, it can actually abort or
have a miscarriage.
So we do quite a lot to make sure the right size in terms of the ram. We do also mate with the right size in terms of the ewe, especially for the ones that are mating for the first time. We make sure the sizes of the ram and the ewe are within the same range.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for that. On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in terms of commercial sheep production here at Precap Farm. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. We are here in the second segment of your program, where we are looking at commercial sheep production. Now, these are some of the enterprises or projects that our Zimbabwean farmers might want to take advantage of, given that they have quicker returns. They are not very difficult to manage if you work hand in glove with our veterinary department and experts such like Vicky here, who's working with the first family here at Precap Farm. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, so 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai, make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness 110. Now, Vicky, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let us look at issues around sanitation. There are a lot of people who might want to get into sheep production, but when it comes to their hygiene or sanitation or availability of water, they do not have such. Talk to us in terms of cleaning of this crow or this housing. How do you clean it? How do you, the periods or the regularity of cleaning? Do you have maybe use for this manure? Do you just throw it away, or you are using it along the value chain? And just the importance of having clean water within a sheep enterprise.
All right, so biosecurity measures we do have. We actually always keep our housing very, very clean and very, very smart. Why? It has also an effect in terms of the diseases that we can have. So every day when the team comes in the morning, if just in case, because we do make feed in here that we also feed our sheep, in case there are any plastics from the hay bales or just any foreign material that we think our sheep can eat, we make sure everything is removed. If there's any stone, anything, it's removed. Then our water, we do have our containers where we put our water that we clean frequently. So we make sure our water troughs are also clean all the time, and we actually put clean water every day for our sheep, which is also good in terms of disease control and our hygiene.
Speaking of disease control, can we look at vaccination? What chemicals are most rampant or common when it comes to the vaccination of sheep, and some of those diseases that you might want to highlight that are a menace when it comes to sheep production and management?
All right. So firstly, in terms of disease control, as long as you are practicing very good hygiene, you can barely have diseases. However, sometimes we do receive some sheep that can be coming from certain areas. So what we do, we make sure we quarantine them for a certain period. Actually, now we do a minimum of 1 month. We make sure they're quarantined. We give them water while they are there, feed while they are there, and then we vaccinate against pulp kidney, which we do once a year. And we also do, in case there are any diseases or anything, usually we use your ivermectin or a penicillin for controlling any other disease. But however, this is just the ones we use generally. They can be, in case there's any specific disease which requires a certain medication, then it can be availed accordingly.
Okay, now Vicky, you would find that looking at your sheep, just by mere looking, you can tell that this one is healthy, or you can look and say this one might not be feeling well, or it also may be headed towards death. The mortality rate could even increase due to certain issues or certain scenarios that might arise. I want you to talk to us in terms of signs and symptoms that you look at and say, this sheep, this ewe, this whatever male could be maybe having a disease or having a challenge, because we've seen certain scenarios but by just merely looking at it with your naked eye.
Okay, there are quite a lot of factors that we look at. Firstly, it can have watery diarrhea. Yes, so if you look at the back, sometimes the diarrhea will be all over the tail at the back. So that can show you on its own that this ram or the ewe or a little lamb has got some disease. It's not feeling well. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, if you look at its appetite, yes, you see it will not be having that large appetite to eat its feed or to graze outside. Then you can tell that there's something wrong with your sheep. And you also need to just look at the general appearance. It will not be that active as the usual. If you look at it, it will not be that active. So if you see it's a bit weak and not active, definitely it requires urgent attention. It means it's not feeling well. So there are so many other factors you can look at, but some of the symptoms, they depend on the specific disease.
Okay, in terms of your feeding regimen, the periods of feeding, the nutrients or the macronutrients and micronutrients that are essential for proper growth of sheep. You are doing commercial sheep farming here.
Yes.
What are those nutrients that are essential, and what kind of feed that do provide those kinds of nutrients when it comes to production? Okay,
so all nutrients are very important because each particular nutrient plays each particular role. Whether it's your proteins, you're looking at your vitamins, you're looking at your phosphorus, each plays its particular role. So what we do is, like currently, if you look at the pastures, they are pastures, they are very nutritious. They have all the nutrients that are needed by our sheep. Though we supplement, but when we supplement mostly, it's when we are beginning the winter time.
Yes.
That's when we start supplementing. So protein content is needed. Also, you need fat. You need a lot of energy when it's giving fat or when it's carrying a little lamb inside. All those nutrients are needed so that the lamb inside also is healthy.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for giving us such a detailed presentation in terms of commercial sheep production. On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more here at Precab Farm, where we are looking at commercial sheep production. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Today we are in Midlands and I'm coming to you from the First Families Farm here at Precab, where we are looking at commercial sheep production. You'd find that most of our aspiring farmers here in Zimbabwe have an interest in sheep production, but they might not have the know-how on how to undertake such enterprises and projects, which is the very case today. We are going to be enlightening each other and demystifying each other in terms of the misconceptions that are normally around our farming community when it comes to sheep production. I am joined by Vicky here, who is a livestock expert working with the First Family in their livestock enterprises. Vicky, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Azam.
Now, we're looking at your culling procedures. What are those maybe factors that you look at before taking your sheep either to the slaughterhouse, to the abattoir, or general culling, releasing on certain sheep? What do you look at, the factors that you consider?
Okay, so culling will be removing those unproductive sheep from the total herd. It would not make a lot of sense for us to keep the ones that are not productive. It means our costs are high in terms of feed, in terms of vaccinations, in terms of dipping. So for us to cut our costs and also to have income, we do culling. From the culling of the sheep, if there are any other expenses which are related to the sheep, that's where we take the man from to purchase, because we are running this as a business.
Yes.
Yes. So we look for those that are constantly, that are always sick. Maybe you treat it after 2-3 months, it's sick again, or it's constantly losing weight. It means even in terms of production, it's minimum. So we cull that. Then we also, like, we do not want inbreeding. So if we see that this particular ram has been mating with this particular sheep, and now we have the offsprings, and the offsprings has reached a certain age where now they can mate to produce little ones as well, we cull that particular ram.
Okay.
Yes. And also even those when they give birth, they have calving, they have the losses where they have those complications when giving birth. We also cull them, because that means if we leave them within the particular flock, it means their offspring will also have those bad genes,
those deformities.
Yes, that we do not want. So we get rid of them at the beginning. And even the male ones that we know, these ones we are not going to use for breeding, we cull, we slaughter, we fatten them, and we take them to the butchery.
Now, Vicky, you as the manager here, you look at records. You deal with records that come from your subordinates, from the employees. When it comes to record keeping as a manager, because I want us to talk about the importance of record keeping in livestock production.
Record keeping is very, very critical. It's very important. Why we do that? It helps us to see our production and how are we performing, and how many lambs do we have this year. So we keep all our records. We make sure even in terms of mortalities, we do have our records where we know how many died, or if there is none, so that we look at the performance and which particular breed is actually dying frequently. That's also the importance of the records. Even when we want to trace which rams, remember we are investing in very expensive rams because we want the offsprings to be okay. We see which ram has got the particular genes. We vet that through the offsprings that it would have. So we keep the records of making sure if it's tag number 001, which ones were the offspring that came out of it and how are they performing. So should we keep that ram or not, is the importance of our records. Even when it comes to some which gives birth to two at a particular time, we also keep such records, and it's good to keep them so that it helps us to run and make decisions on our sheep production.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Finally, as we close this episode, I want us to look at issues surrounding markets. The name of the program is Agribusiness.
Yes.
Farmers who might want to venture in sheep production are looking to make a living off of their sheep production. They are looking to have every return per dollar invested. They are looking to look at it and take farming as a formidable business. Looking at markets, Vicky, your views as you move around, your sentiments, how is the market for lamb meat or mutton meat, because not all the time when you get into supermarkets, it's not every day where you see mutton meat.
Yes.
Meaning, I would like to think maybe there might be a gap for sheep production. Talk to us in terms of the markets, your views and sentiments as someone who manages a sheep enterprise.
That's very true. We are actually not meeting the demand. Even if you look like you've explained, in some of the supermarkets, there's very high demand for mutton. But our local farmers are not even able to meet the demand. So that's why we need that importance of planning, so that you know this particular month you are letting out, if it's 1,000 or it's 500, depending on your planning. So most of the farmers don't do proper planning, so at the end they end up having nothing in terms of production, because they would have sold out. So even if you look, there's even market outside for export, which can actually bring in a lot of foreign currency to our country, and we're not able to meet that demand. And even locally, just within the farmers themselves, every day in different groups of farming, you have a lot of farmers that are making inquiries about purchasing sheep. Where can they get? So it means somehow there is a gap, and there is that if there is any other young people out there or any other person who wants to venture into sheep production, there is a lot of market for that.
Thank you so much, Vicky. It was a pleasure having you with us today, but I want you to give us a word of advice in a snippet to those farmers who are looking to get into sheep production. Chido chiriko, shidaka chiriko, people want kuchengeta why is your word of advice for someone who is starting.
Okay, so for any other person who wants to do sheep production, the sky is the limit. Yes, what they always have to do is they have to look at the purpose. Why do they want to get into that sheep production? Then they also start the market, because you cannot do something and then before you look for the market, because there might not be particular buyers, or that particular breed is flooded in the market, or it has certain characteristics that the buyers do not want. So you have to study your market very well and interact with other farmers that are in sheep production. You learn quite a lot, and you hear the shortfalls, the mistakes which they would have made. And when you are starting now, you also start with a good note and a lot of information. And even when we are starting, don't be too greedy. Learn don't be over ambitious. You don't have to invest into a realm probably that is $1,000 when you are starting. Why? You can make a lot of mistakes, and you have you make losses. You would have, yes. So you would rather, I would rather say, yes, invest in something that's just prime minimum. Then as you are learning, as you're going, then you increase your production, and now you can now have even your expensive breed. That way you become a successful farmer.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for giving us the nitty-gritties of sheep production here at Pre-Cape Farm.
You are welcome, Wadza.
There you had it, viewers. We are looking at sheep production. Vicky, here in her final words, in her parting words, was telling us to build into something bigger. Do not use huge chunks of money or huge financial resources and invest in something that you do not have knowledge on. So you need to start small and build as you go. From me, your host, Wadza Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.